Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life. Please take a moment to like and subscribe, it really helps.
All right, diving in today with a listener request. This one's going to be a wild ride through history.
Oh yeah, this is a fun one. A real challenge too. Trying to make sense of 40 years of history packed into one song.
Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. I mean, everyone knows the tune, but how much of the history do we really get?
That's the mission today, untangling these rapid-fire references and seeing what they tell us about the world from 49 to 89.
It's like a musical code, and we're going to crack it open line by line, huh?
Exactly. Each line's a clue, and we're going to connect them to see the bigger picture. It's going to be a wild ride, but I think there are some serious insights to be found here.
Okay, let's get started then. What's the opening salvo Joel hits us with?
Right off the bat, it's Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray. A lot to unpack in just 4 names.
Talk about starting strong.
Wow.
That's the atomic bomb right out of the gate.
Goal.
Heavy stuff.
No kidding. And it really sets the tone. We're starting in a world still reeling from World War II, but already facing this terrifying new era of nuclear weapons. Truman made that call, and it changed everything.
It's like a shadow hanging over everything else, right? This feeling of, what have we unleashed?
Exactly. And then you've got Doris Day right next to that. It's a total shift in tone, all sunshine and smiles, that classic Hollywood image.
Yeah, it's like, even with the world potentially ending, people still need something to escape to, right? A little bit of light in the darkness.
Absolutely. And then, bam, Red China. The Communist Revolution, Mao Zedong coming to power. This was huge, completely reshaping global politics. Suddenly, the U.S. had this whole new ideological rival, and the Cold War was truly on.
Wow, so much happening all at once. Okay, who's the last one in this lineup? Johnny Ray, right?
Yep, the crooner. Famous for his super emotional style. And this is interesting because it points to how music itself was changing. It was the dawn of rock and roll, and even more established genres were getting a bit edgier.
So in just 4 names, we've got the end of World War II, the nuclear threat, the rise of communist China, and the changing landscape of music. It's mind-blowing.
And remember, this is just 1949. Joel's laying the groundwork here, showing us all these forces that are going to shape the next few decades.
Okay, I'm ready for more. Bring on line 2.
All right, here we go. South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Joe DiMaggio. We're moving into different territory now.
South Pacific, that's a musical, isn't it? So we're back to escapism, but this time it's about World War II.
You got it. It shows how that war continued to influence culture. Even years after it ended, people were still processing it, trying to make sense of it, even through something as lighthearted as a musical.
Okay, so the war's still looming in the background.
Mm-hmm.
What about Walter Winchell? That name rings a bell.
Think gossip columnist, radio personality. He was like the original influencer.
Yeah.
Walter Winchell had this massive platform and could really shape public opinion.
He was controlling the narrative before controlling the narrative was even a thing.
Exactly. And now we've got Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, baseball royalty.
Amidst all this political and social upheaval, sports still have this unifying power, right?
Absolutely. It's about national pride, something people could rally around. And of course, DiMaggio's marriage to Marilyn Monroe later in the decade would become this huge media sensation, showing how celebrity culture was starting to take hold.
So line 2 is this mix of the war's lingering impacts, the power of the media, and the allure of sports and celebrity.
And that's what makes this song so fascinating. Joel's weaving together all these different threads of history.
All right, hit me with the next line.
Okay, here we go. Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon, Studebaker, television.
Oh, Joe McCarthy. That's Red Scare territory.
Full-blown Cold War paranoia. McCarthy was the senator leading the charge against suspected communists, creating this atmosphere of fear and suspicion.
So from the atomic bomb to a literal witch hunt in just 3 lines, it's a crash course in Cold War anxieties.
And it gets even more intense with Richard Nixon. He was a rising political star at this point, known for being fiercely anti-communist, kind of foreshadowing what's to come with his presidency later on.
Right, a figure who's going to loom large over the rest of the century.
Exactly. It's like Joel's hinting at the long shadow Nixon will cast on history.
Okay, after those 2, we get Studebaker. That's a car, right?
Yep. The Studebaker represents the post-war boom, the American dream in overdrive. People had money to spend, they were buying cars, and the future looked bright.
A little bit of optimism amidst all the tension, huh?
Exactly. And then television. This is where things really start to change. It revolutionized how people consumed information and entertainment.
Hard to imagine a world without it now.
Right. It brought the world into people's living rooms and would have this massive impact on politics, culture, everything.
Okay, let's wrap up this first verse. What's the final line Joel throws at us?
He closes it out with North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe, back to the global stage.
The Korean War. This is where the Cold War got really hot, right?
Absolutely. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union, and South Korea, supported by the U.S. It became this proxy war for this global ideological struggle.
And millions died, right? A brutal conflict?
Yeah, truly devastating. And it left Korea divided, a situation that still exists today.
And amidst all of that, we have Marilyn Monroe.
Wow, talk about contrasts.
It's such a fascinating juxtaposition. On one hand, this very real threat of nuclear war, and on the other, this icon of beauty and glamour.
It's like she represents this idea that life goes on even in the face of unimaginable danger.
I think that's spot on. It's a theme that we see throughout the song, this tension between the darkness of world events and the desire for escape and joy.
A very human response to living in uncertain times, for sure.
Absolutely.
Wow, so we've just scratched the surface of we didn't start the fire, and it's already been this whirlwind tour of history and culture.
Buckle up. This is just the beginning. We've got a lot more ground to cover. It's amazing how much he packs into those first few lines. Yeah, it's like a time machine taking us back to this era.
Ready to keep going.
Absolutely. Let's see what the 50s throw at us.
All right, verse 2 kicks off with Rosenberg's, H-bomb, Sugar Ray, Panmunjom.
Whoa, right back to the Cold War tension. Rosenberg's, that was espionage, right?
Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, an American couple accused of passing atomic secrets to the Soviets.
Were executed, weren't they?
Yeah, in 1953, it really fueled that Red Scare paranoia, this fear that enemies were everywhere.
And then H-bomb, even more terrifying than the atomic bomb.
The hydrogen bomb, yeah. It was like the ultimate weapon, this symbol of how dangerous the world had become.
It's hard to even imagine that level of anxiety knowing that kind of destruction was possible.
It really did hang over everything. But then, in the middle of all that, you have Sugar Ray, a bit of a change of pace.
Sugar Ray Robinson, the boxer.
Exactly. One of the greats. I think Joe's showing us here how, even in these dark times, people still find moments of joy and escape, whether it's through sports or entertainment.
It's like a reminder that human experience isn't all doom and gloom, even when things feel really heavy.
Absolutely. And then Panmunjom. That's where the armistice agreement was signed, officially ending the Korean War.
But Korea remained divided, right?
Yeah, sadly, a situation that continues to this day. It shows how these conflicts can have lasting impacts, even after the fighting stops.
Okay, what's next on our historical playlist?
Line 2 takes a bit of a cultural turn. Brando, The King and I, and The Catcher in the Rye.
Some familiar names. Marlon Brando, the rebel, the iconoclast. What's he symbolizing here?
He represents this new generation challenging the status quo. He
Yeah.
was the anti-hero, the brooding, intense actor who really captivated audiences.
It's like he's embodying this spirit of rebellion that's starting to emerge in the 50s.
Exactly. And then we have The King and I, another musical, but this one takes us to a different culture, a different world. It's this glimpse into something beyond America's borders.
Broadening horizons, maybe?
I think so. And finally, The Catcher in the Rye. This one's all about teenage angst and alienation.
Oh yeah, remember Holden Caulfield? He wasn't exactly a fan of the phonies.
Exactly. He captured this feeling of disillusionment that many young people felt with the conformity and materialism of the 50s.
So we're getting some deeper social commentary here. This isn't just about events. It's about the mood, the feeling of the era.
Absolutely. All right, ready for line 3?
Hit me with it.
Eisenhower, vaccine, England's got a new queen. We're moving into some different themes now.
Ike, the general turned president, wasn't he all about stability after the chaos of Korea?
Exactly. He promised a return to normalcy, a chance to breathe. His presidency was a time of relative peace and prosperity.
People were ready for a break from the tension, I guess.
For sure. And then vaccine. A huge moment in medical history. This refers to the polio vaccine, which eradicated a disease that had terrified parents for generations.
It's hard to imagine what a relief that must have been.
It was a game changer. And then a touch of royalty. England's got a new queen. Queen Elizabeth II took the throne in 1952.
A symbol of tradition in a world that was changing so rapidly.
I think that's a good way to put it. Okay, last line of this verse coming up.
Late on me.
Marciano, Liberace, Santiana, goodbye. Quite a mix here.
Marciano, that's another boxing reference, right? Rocky Marciano.
Yep. The undefeated heavyweight champion. He represented this American ideal of toughness, of overcoming adversity.
And then Liberace. Talk about a flamboyant personality.
He was a true showman, a pianist and entertainer who really pushed boundaries. His inclusion here speaks to a growing cultural acceptance of individuality.
Like a crack in that 50s conformity, hinting at the changes to come.
Exactly. And then we have a philosopher, George Santayana, famous for his quote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it."
Ooh, that's deep. Is Joel giving us a little history lesson within a history lesson?
I think he is. It's like he's reminding us to learn from the past, to understand how we get to where we are.
And finally, goodbye. A bit of a cryptic ending to the verse.
It's like a farewell to this particular era. The 50s are drawing to a close, and the world's about to enter a whole new decade of even more dramatic changes.
I can't wait to see where Joel takes us next.
Oh, you're in for a ride. Things are about to get even more interesting.
The 60s, man. This is where everything changes.
Yeah, the song really captures this feeling of things speeding up. The Cold War, social movements, cultural shifts, it's all happening so fast.
And the music. Don't forget the music.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack to a whole generation. Okay, ready to jump into verse 3.
Hit me with it.
Little Rock, Pasternak, Mickey Mantle, Kerouac. We're right in the thick of it now.
Little Rock. That takes us straight to the civil rights movement, right?
The Little Rock Nine, those 9 black students who integrated Central High School in '57.
They were so brave, facing all that opposition.
It was a pivotal moment, a real turning point. But it also showed how much resistance there was to change.
Yeah, a reminder that progress isn't always smooth sailing.
Exactly. And then from this intense social struggle, we jump to Boris Pasternak, a Russian novelist who won the Nobel Prize in Literature.
But the Soviet government wouldn't let him accept it, right?
Another layer of the Cold War, this battle of ideologies, with artists caught in the middle.
Wow, it's like freedom of expression was on the line.
It was a different world. Then we get a little break from the heaviness with Mickey Mantle, back to baseball.
The Mick, a true legend.
Yeah, he was a superstar. It's like a reminder that amidst all this turmoil, people still needed those moments of escape.
Sports have a way of doing that, right?
Yep.
Bringing people together.
Absolutely. And then Kerouac. That's Jack Kerouac, the Beat Generation writer.
On the Road. I think everyone read that in high school.
It captured the spirit of a generation, this restlessness, this search for something more.
Yeah, those beats were definitely shaking things up. Okay, what's next in this whirlwind of a verse?
Sputnik, Chow En Lai, Bridge on the River Kwai. We're going global again.
Sputnik. That was the first satellite launched into space, right? By the Soviets.
Yep, in 1957, it was a huge shock to the U.S., this realization that they were falling behind in the space race.
It must have felt like a real threat.
It was. It really ramped up the Cold War competition. Then we have Chow En Lai, the premier of China.
Another reminder of the communist world, I guess.
Exactly. China's influence was growing, and it was allied with the Soviet Union, a real challenge for the U.S.
Okay, and what's with Bridge on the River Kwai? Another war reference, even though we're moving further away from World War II.
It's a powerful film about the complexities of war, the psychological toll it takes.
Do you think Joel's saying something about how war continues to shape us, even years later?
I think so. It's like a ghost that hangs over everything, even as the world tries to move on.
Okay, line 3 of this verse. What do we have?
Lebanon, Charles de Gaulle, California baseball. A real mix of events here.
Lebanon, that was a U.S. intervention, right?
Yeah, the U.S. sent troops there in 1958, a sign of America's growing involvement in the Middle East.
It's like they were trying to contain communism everywhere.
Exactly. Then we have Charles de Gaulle, the leader of France, a real force on the world stage, especially in Europe.
He definitely left his mark. And then, a bit of a lighter note, California baseball.
The Dodgers and the Giants moving west, a sign of how America itself was changing, expanding, becoming more diverse.
Interesting how Joel balances these global events with these little cultural snapshots. It's like he's showing us how history happens on all these different levels.
Yeah, the big and the small all intertwined. Okay, ready for the last line of this verse?
Bring it on.
Starkweather homicide, children of thalidomide. Things take a dark turn here.
Starkweather homicide. That sounds ominous. What happened there?
A horrific killing spree in '58 by Charles Starkweather and his girlfriend. It really shocked the nation, this brutal violence erupting in the heartland.
It's like the dark underbelly of the 50s, right? All that sunny optimism, and then you have this.
Exactly. And then children of thalidomide. This was a tragedy. a drug given to pregnant women that caused severe birth defects.
It was a global scandal, wasn't it?
It was. It raised all these questions about drug safety, the unintended consequences of medical progress.
It's like a reminder that even with good intentions, things can go terribly wrong.
A sobering thought for sure. Okay, we're at the halfway point. Ready to see what the rest of the song has in store?
Absolutely. Bring on the next decade.
Here it comes. Buddy Holly, Ben-Hur, Space Monkey, Mafia, Hula Hoops, Castro, Edsel is a No-No, U2, Syngman Rhee, Payola, and Kennedy.
Whoa, he's not slowing down, is he?
Not at all. But that's what makes this song so compelling. It's like he's trying to capture the sheer speed and intensity of this era.
Okay, let's break it down. Buddy Holly, that's a music legend, right?
The day the music died, February 3rd, 1959, a plane crash that took the lives of Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson. It was a huge loss for rock and roll, and it really marked the end of an era.
And then Ben-Hur. That takes us to the movies, right?
One of the greatest epics ever made. It swept the Oscars in 1960, and it really captured the public's imagination with its spectacle and grandeur.
So, tragedy and triumph, all in the same breath. And what about Space Monkey?
The space race was heating up. The Soviets sent a monkey named Abel into space in 1959, followed by another one named Miss Baker.
So even monkeys were getting in on the action. And then Mafia. That takes us to a different side of American life.
Organized crime was a major force in the 50s and 60s, and it really captured the public's fascination.
It's like this dark undercurrent running beneath the surface of American society.
Exactly. Then we have hula hoops. A bit of a lighter note, it was a fad that swept the nation, and it's just one example of the many cultural trends that were popping up at this time.
From the serious to the silly, all packed into one song. And what about Castro?
Fidel Castro. He came to power in Cuba in 1959, and it was a major turning point for Latin America.
Another communist leader right on America's doorstep.
Exactly. It really heightened Cold War tensions, and it would lead to some major confrontations later in the decade.
Okay, what's next? Edsel is a no-no. That sounds like a car reference.
The Edsel was a car released by Ford in 1958, and it was a total flop. It became a symbol of corporate hubris and the dangers of overhyping a product.
So even in the midst of all this global tension, there's still room for some good old-fashioned consumerism. And then U2, back to the Cold War.
The U-2 incident. In 1960, a U.S. spy plane was shot down over the Soviet Union, and it created a major international crisis.
It must have felt like the world was on the brink of war.
It was a very tense time. Then we have Syngman Rhee, the president of South Korea. He was a controversial figure, but he played a key role in the Korean War and the aftermath.
So we're seeing all these different players on the world stage shaping the course of history. And then Payola. That takes us back to the music industry.
Payola was a scandal that rocked the music world in the late 50s and early 60s. It involved record companies bribing radio DJs to play certain songs.
So even the music we were listening to was caught up in all this corruption and intrigue.
And finally, to close out this verse, we have Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, the young, charismatic president who would come to embody the hopes and dreams of a generation.
Camelot, a new era of hope and optimism.
But also an era that would be marked by tragedy. Kennedy's assassination in 1963 would shatter that sense of hope and plunge the nation into mourning.
It's amazing how this song captures all these highs and lows, these moments of hope and despair.
It's a real roller coaster ride through history.
And we're not done yet. We still have a whole decade to go. What's next on our historical playlist?
Well, we've made it to the 60s, a decade that would see the world transformed in countless ways. From the Vietnam War to the Civil Rights Movement, from the moon landing to the rise of the counterculture, the 60s were a time of both progress and turmoil, of hope and disillusionment.
And Billy Joel's song captures all of that, doesn't it? It's like he's taken all these disparate events, all these names and faces, and woven them into this incredible tapestry of history.
It's a song that makes you think, that makes you question, that makes you want to dig deeper and understand the forces that shape our world. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just a catchy tune. It's a reminder of the complexities of history, the challenges we face, and the resilience of the human spirit.
It's a reminder that as much as things change, they also stay the same. We're still grappling with many of the same issues that Joel sings about: war, peace, inequality, the search for meaning and purpose.
And that's the beauty of history. It's not just about the past, it's about understanding who we are and where we're going.
So the next time you hear "We didn't start the fire," listen closely. You might just be surprised by what you discover. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into history, and we'll see you next time.
Feel free to comment your thoughts or where you would like the conversation to go in a future cast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.